Hey everyone, and welcome to AMC Movie Talk. Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm Chris Lee Kennedy, and this is the show where we bring you the day's biggest movie news, and of course we give you insight into what it all means, because we want you to know more about everything about movies than all of your friends. Joining me, as always, is AMC Movie News senior editor, Mr. John Campea.
Screw everybody. I'm so tired. I am so tired. We just got back from Comic-Con. I'm so tired.
But we're here for you.
But we're here.
And joining us, of course, is our associate editor, Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach.
Tired. Sensory overload. Good stuff. Great time. But I would really like to hibernate for like a week now. Yay.
No
John,
kidding.
cool?
Oh.
Cool?
The show must go on.
The show must go on.
There's no hibernating.
No.
Because we just got back from Comic-Con, we're not having the normal show, we're having the Comic-Con edition, because there were two huge announcements at Comic-Con that we have to talk about. So, John, there was some really big Man of Steel movie news this weekend, but what was it?
Yeah, Zack Snyder, and of course this is what everybody's been talking about. Zack Snyder came out in Hall H to do the part of the Warner Brothers panel, and the first thing he did was that he announced officially we are doing another Man of Steel movie. That was the first thing he confirmed, and of course everybody who was in the room kind of figured that out by Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder came out to announce that he's been fired and that he won't be doing any more Superman. Now, so he comes out. Yeah,
Drop
out,
mic.
kids. So he comes out and he announces officially, he goes, first thing I can tell, we are doing another Superman movie. And that was great. And I think the big news about the Superman movie, I was telling them, is, of course, that here's the big news. Amy Adams is returning as Lois Lane. That is the big news of Superman 2. Of course, that's not true.
Yay!
But Amy
Super
Adams,
happy.
Amy Adams is returning for Man of Steel 2.
Yay.
So is, who played his mother? Who plays Clark's mother again? I
Diane
love her.
Lane.
Thank you.
Diane Lane.
Diane Lane is coming back as well. So basically the whole cast is coming back. But then he said, but you know, I've been scouring all the issues in DC Comics trying to figure out what other element can we put into this thing. And we came up with this. And then what he did was, he brings up Harry Lennox, who plays the general, the U.S. military general in the film. Did anybody else notice that there was a Matrix reunion going on there in the film between the general and Morpheus? Anyway, although I don't think they're ever on screen together at the same time, but still. So he comes out, and he doesn't say anything. All he does was read this one passage. And I'm struggling here. We don't have Zoom. I'm getting goosebumps on my arm right now just
For
thinking
real.
about this passage.
Confirmed.
Like real goosebumps just thinking about this passage. He comes out to read this passage. Now, the graphic novel that changed everything in the world of comics was Miller's The Dark Knight Returns. That is that changed a whole perception of Batman, and it ushered in a new era of comic books. I mean, it just changed the whole industry. And of course, you know, The Dark Knight Returns is a one-shot story set in the future, about 30 years. Batman has been retired for a long time. He's still a beast. He comes out of retirement to clean up scum. Superman is sent to stop this vigilante Batman because they don't want vigilantes anymore. And Superman and Batman come to blows, blah, blah, blah. So there's this passage from it, and Harry Lennox comes out and he reads a passage from that comic, and it was amazing. We were just talking about this. You could hear in the reaction from Hall H, a lot of people didn't recognize the passage, but the people who did were gasping. Here's the passage. Harry Lennox comes out, and all he does is he reads this. I want you to remember, Clark, in all the years to come, in all your most private moments, I want you to remember my hand at your throat. I want you to remember the one man who beat you. Now, in The Dark Knight Returns, that is something that Batman says to Superman at the end of their fight, as Batman has beaten Superman and is on him and has him by the throat, and he reads those lines. And there are some people in that hall who recognized it, and they were going, oh my God, and lots of expletives as well. And then at that moment, this logo comes on the screen, the Superman logo with the Batman logo behind it. And the place goes bananas. Absolutely bananas. And in sports terminology, Marvel was there. Look, everybody knows how much we love Marvel.
Yeah.
Avengers, greatest comic book movie of all time. Sorry, you know, Batman Begins and all that kind of stuff, but Avengers is the best one ever. But I'm sorry, and Marvel had lots of stuff there. They had Loki there, and they had the Guardians of the Galaxy there, and they had Captain America there, and they had Thor, they had all this stuff. With one punch, DC and Warner Brothers knocked out Marvel and won Comic-Con with one announcement. Because I'm telling you, some people who are Marvel fanboys, I am both a DC and a Marvel fanboy. So all my fellow Marvel fanboys, no, that was just one announcement. You know, we had all these great announcements. There weren't really many announcements, just a lot of great stuff. Now, all this great stuff, that's fine. Sorry, but all anybody at Comic-Con was buzzing about after that announcement was made was Batman and Superman. Now, just a couple of interesting observations here about this. There's some things that we know about this, and I don't think the official press release has gone out yet. Somebody at Warner Brothers slipped me the official press release. And it kind of confirms what we glean from this passage that Lennox read. And in the press release, the words were, the two greatest superheroes of all time, and once again, all due respect to all the great characters and everything in Marvel, it's Batman and it's Superman. Those are the two greatest comic book characters ever. They just are. But this is the two greatest superheroes of all time face off in 2015. That statement, coupled with this passage that they read, this ain't just going to be, hey, Superman meets his newest buddy, Batman, down at the soda shop, and they decide to go out and fight crime together. Nah, this is going to be what we have all been wanting. This is going to be what I have been crying tears for, laying in my bed at night for over 15 years. This is going to be Batman versus Superman. And it's going to be in the context of Superman 2. This is going to be Man of Steel 2. And it's going to be Batman versus Superman. And no doubt it's going to end with them as friends and allies, maybe not close friends, but allies, and probably see the seed sown for a Justice League movie. My mind is exploding. And I have said, I'm going to throw this over to Amy Rose here in a second. I have said forever, and I didn't know that Warner Brothers would think this way. I've been saying they need to. I've been saying you can't start this new cinematic universe with a Wonder Woman standalone. You can't start it with a new Flash standalone or an Aquaman standalone. These characters don't have the grounding to do it, to stand on their own. You need to start with Justice League, or I said, but they'll never do it, you need a Batman versus Superman. But I said they'd never do it. I mean, I never dreamed that they would be that smart. But apparently, they are smart. As smart as me, almost. And we are getting Superman versus Batman. I am. Look, you can't see them. I have goosebumps going up and down my arm. Look, I got more to say on this, but I'm going to throw this over to Amy Rose, because I know Amy Rose, when we first heard word, the day before they made the announcement, we caught wind that they may be, hey, listen, Warner Brothers may be announcing Superman and Batman. And you were like sitting in your seat, just shaking and vibrating when we were in San Diego. Your reaction to this whole thing and your observations?
One word. Epic. Epic. This is going to be epic. I have literally been waiting for this announcement for so long, and I was always like, world's finest. But again, I don't know, just based on their track record, we didn't know that they would just give us the goods like this. So the night before the big announcement, I was at the Playboy Kick-Ass 2 party, fun time had by all, and one of my homies over at Warner Brothers said, be prepared for tomorrow, where we've got a huge announcement. And naturally I was like, he's like, no, I can't tell you, don't even try. I'm just like, come on, just give me the goods. And he's just like, it would make you sober, it's that good. And I knew it had to be big. We knew Man of Steel 2 was coming, we know all of this, it had to be big. And this is exactly what I was hoping for. And when we were on the press line and I read that this was going to be announced, literally, I was just like a little kid on Christmas. I was popping around like John was saying, and my heart was fluttering with butterflies. This is exactly what I want to see. DC, WB, thank you for making us happier than we have been in a long, long time, since Man of Steel made us so happy. So I can't wait to see this on the big screen. And Henry Cavill did a great job as Superman. So this highlights the conversation of who is going to be Batman again, because they really have their work cut out for them. I mean, we've tossed around a lot of quality actors and a lot of quality names. The one thing they have in their favor here is we already got the origin story. We already have that. So it is, in my opinion, going to be a little easier because to really have the guy who's going to be Bruce Wayne and Batman with the whole origin story, he's got to crush both parts. But in this, the focus is going to be more, in my opinion, on Batman and Superman just epically battling it out. This is going to be so great. And then eventually they're going to hug it out and it will be a good segue into the world's finest, into Justice League. So I could not be more excited about this, but that really does bring it up close and center because 2015 is going to be here before we know it. So they really have to get that Batman in order, and Christian Bale's not coming back, guys, so let's not even have his name in the mix.
And one of the other things that I believe that this really points, I believe, now, who's going to be the villain? I've read a lot of people asking, well, then who's going to be the villain in that movie? I don't think there is going to be a villain. I think we're going to start to see Lex Luthor becoming that. I think what's going to happen here is that Bruce Wayne and Lex Luthor are actually going to be working together when it starts to reestablish Metropolis, to rebuild Metropolis. I think that's going to be part of the thing. But really, in many ways, I think Batman is going to play, I'm not going to say the villain role, I think Batman's going to play the adversarial role in this. I think that's kind of clear if you're going to have Batman versus Superman. I think Batman's going to think this alien dude is a threat and he needs to be stopped. And I think that's where all this is going to come from. So I'm very, very excited about that. That's super. Now, it does bring up this key problem that we talked about on the show before a couple weeks ago. Superman does this, and Batman dies. That's what would happen, right? So we talked about on the show that in order to make this work in a live-action movie on the big screen, because remember, just because something works in a comic book doesn't mean it'll work on the big screen. Just because something works in a cartoon doesn't mean it'll feel right on the big screen. The big job that they have ahead of them, that Goyer and Snyder have ahead of them, and of course David Goyer is writing this one as well, and Snyder is directing, is that they have to find that device that makes it believable and feel natural that Batman can fight Superman. Because everybody's writing in the chat boards, and when I first said, this is the big problem they got to overcome. I mean, if they can make it work, this will be a monumental accomplishment, but this is a problem. They need to figure out a great way to overcome this. I had a lot of people writing me, oh, no, John, you just don't understand Batman. I understand Batman. But saying, oh, John, you just don't understand Batman. He's unbelievably intelligent. Yeah, I know he's intelligent, but, put Mike Tyson in with a Harvard grad, and I'll take Tyson every time. So he's so intelligent. Yeah, but he's still human. He's not superhuman intelligent. He can do this. It doesn't matter. They need to come up with a device. Now, Dennis was mentioning earlier what I think a lot of us has been thinking, which is that they have to introduce kryptonite or some form of kryptonite. It has to. You have to have that balancing factor. Now, somebody else pointed out to me that, in Man of Steel, when Zod first realizes he can fly, he takes his own armor off and he hovers. Well, when the camera zooms back, you realize they're in a half-constructed LexCorp building when he takes his armor off. So, we've theorized before, maybe Lex Luthor discovers some of the trashed Kryptonian technology, maybe Bruce Wayne does, maybe something is concocted together. Because in the Dark Knight Returns comic, what happens is Batman creates this battle armor that he fights Superman is. And maybe there's a little bit of kryptonite, maybe there's the remnants of the Kryptonian technology brought into it so that he's able actually to go toe-to-toe. But Amy Rose brings up the question that is now going to be asked for the next year. Who's Batman? Who's Batman?
Who's Batman?
And I'm telling you right now, I believe they know who it is. I think they've picked him. They're saying that he hasn't been cast yet.
Who is it, John? Tell me.
Oh, I don't know. But the other thing that this confirms for me, the check, John was right again, item on the list, is that we said before, now when they first started saying that they might do the next Man of Steel film in 2015, there was some concerns raised by a lot of people. It's too soon. That's only 2 years away. And I said, well, okay, wait a minute. If we assume that David Goyer is telling the truth and they haven't started writing word one about anything, they haven't started developing this yet, then yes, 2015 is too soon. But if, as I suspect, they've already been working on this for a long time, and they already know where they're going, and they already have their story in development, and they've already got a lot of that work already done, I said, then no, 2015 is not that far of a stretch. That's pretty believable. And guess what? If Warner Brothers is going to get up at Comic-Con and say, we are doing Superman versus Batman in 2015, which means they start shooting probably in like 7 months, they already have their script. I'm telling you right now, first draft of the script is done. I'm telling you right now, the first draft of the script is done. Because they have to know they have a script.
At least an outline. Mm-hmm.
At the very least. Because they have to know that we've got something in place that we feel good about and solid about, that we can say with certainty, this movie gets released in 2015. Because you blow this...
Oh yeah, they're not going to blow this.
But if they do, you blow Batman versus Superman, DC Films, dead for the next 10 years. You will not recover from this. Yeah. You screw up Batman versus Superman... Done. Try rebooting something in 10 years because your goldmine franchise is dead. So I have a feeling they have their at least a very advanced outline, first draft done, and they're very comfortable with it. They know it works, and they're comfortable enough to get up at Comic-Con saying, we're doing this in 2015. Like, Amy Rose, how important... We were mentioning, and you brought up the whole issue of like, who's going to be Batman? Who's going to be Batman? How key is this casting? How key is this?
It's literally everything. I mean, if they dare push this release date away from 2015, I mean, people are already going to be so skeptical that they don't know what they're doing. So they really, really have to hit this. And in order to make it work, I mean, they already have 50% of the puzzle done. Henry Cavill, he was a great Superman. Yeah. He did a really good job. So not only do we have to find the great Bruce Wayne / Batman, but they have to have chemistry. They have to make this the most epic battle of all battles that we've seen on the big screen. And I really think that they can do this. And I think that Snyder is going to be a really good director to do this. But that casting is so important because no matter who they pick, I mean, Christian Bale, a lot of people, most people I would say, thought he did a really good job. I personally really liked Christian Bale. You liked Christian Bale.
Love Christian Bale's Batman.
But he's not coming back. No matter who they pick, they're going to have, some people are like, this is inspired choice. And some people are like, this is the worst casting ever. So he has to have, I feel like with something like this, they can't just pick a no-name like Chris Hemsworth was when they first cast him as Thor. They need to pick someone with a respected talent and a resume enough where we've seen what he does, because this is their bread and butter property. They already captivated audiences with Man of Steel. Dark Knight trilogy was epic. This is it. This is the lead-in to Justice League, and this is seriously what we've been waiting for forever. So it's got to be an inspired, badass choice, and it's got to have the build. There's so many key essential elements that he needs to have, and I'm sure we'll talk about it again. I mean, we've already teased a couple names, but I want to really think about it. I'm already predicting
there's probably about 5,000 mailbag questions about people.
Yeah.
But to that point, you're saying, you know what? I think it's inevitable when they announce who's going to play Batman. There is going to be, no matter who it is,
no matter what,
there is going to be a lot of screams of, that's it, this film just lost its credibility. This is the worst casting ever. You know what else everybody said that about? When they cast Michael Keaton as Batman.
Yep.
And guess what? Everybody ended up loving him. You know who else they said that about? Heath Ledger when they cast him as Joker.
Yep.
Everybody likes to rewrite history now. Say, oh no, I knew Ledger was a great point. No, you didn't, you frickin' liar. I remember so clearly when it was announced that Heath Ledger was cast as Joker. The chat boards and the outrage, and so here's what my plea to you, my fellow fans, is this: when they announce it, whoever it is, take a deep breath and just understand that your vision of what the Joker was going to be was probably a little bit different than what Chris Nolan had in mind, and that Chris Nolan knows what he needs in this character, and he cast it appropriately. Let's take a step back. Whoever they announce, take a step back before we react and say, okay, Zack Snyder, the dudes at WB, I got a feeling Nolan will probably be involved in one way or the other.
Especially if his Batman is involved.
Well, it's not going to be his Batman.
I know, but he set the Gotham that we love so much. I mean, he's going to be involved.
He will. They haven't said he will, but I got a feeling he will. Let's just say, okay, they know what they need in their Batman. So let's just take a breath and not hyper-react. If it's going to be Armie Hammer, let's not freak out about the Lone Ranger.
No.
If it's going to be Michael Keaton returning,
not
freak out. If it's Sylvester Stallone, let's not.
I think we can freak out if it's Sylvester Stallone.
But the point is, somebody brought up a really neat name to me the other day, and I would have bought this. I would have bought this if it wasn't for what's going on with X-Men. It was Hugh Jackman would have made a great. Because in The Dark Knight, now granted, we don't want a 60-year-old Batman, but an older, more experienced dude, that would have been kind of cool. So I'm not saying Hugh Jackman's
What
going to be
about
Batman.
Anne Hathaway? When she was first cast as,
I didn't like it.
I did not like it. I'm like, Selena Kyle, Catwoman, really? And I was just like, okay, now I don't know where you're going with this, Nolan. And she was one of the best parts of that film. She crushed that role.
If not the best part of that film. She was amazing.
Exactly what Catwoman should have been. So I do have faith in this team. And Man of Steel, most of us out there thought it was a really good film. Sure, I had some issues with the script, blah, 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 whatever. But overall, The Last Son of Krypton was shown in a light that I can be proud of as a fan of this franchise. And I think that they're going to show us. So let's not freak out. I think some goodness is coming.
The announcement made me a lot more confident in DC as well, because their original outline of this universe, starting from back in Green Lantern, did not have this in it. Did not have Batman being a part of it. So the fact that they're now changing it and seeing that they have to step up their game makes me feel like Justice League is going to come and is going to be even better.
And we knew Man of Steel was going to, so much was riding on it. And I mean, that was great. It was a success by so many different standards. So hopefully that gave them the faith in themselves.
Yeah, and my biggest criticism of Warner Brothers up to this point, and I've said it 1,000 times on the show, offhandedly, was always this: show some confidence in your properties. I've said it again. Warner Brothers just keeps failing to show confidence in their properties. And by getting up at Comic-Con 2 years away and saying, you know what, we're doing this. We are doing Superman versus Batman. Guess what? And you know what, Warner Brothers? If this ends up being a colossal failure, I'm still going to applaud you for showing confidence in your properties.
For sure.
And you stood up and you rolled the dice. And Batman, look, I'm going to tell you right now. You hit this out of the park. You do this right. Biggest box office film of all time. Batman versus Superman is going to end up being the biggest. Bigger than Justice League would have been. Bigger than Justice League would have been. Bigger than Avengers 2 is going to be. You do this right, and you get the kind of positive buzz from the critics and early screening fans that you did for the first Avengers. Because let's face it, part of the reason Avengers broke all those box office records is because the critics saw it well in advance and started hyping the movie up like crazy. I was one of them. If you do that right for Batman versus Superman,
come to mama.
Biggest box office hit of all time. I'm telling you right now, that's what it's going to be if the movie's good. And if Man of Steel's any indication, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's just all about casting that key role.
Big pressure.
And then finding a device to make it believable, not in a cartoon way, not in a comic way, that these two guys can live in the same universe and that some mortal human being can go toe-to-toe with the Man of Steel. And God.
With great training and great toys and intelligence, mind you.
Yes. And please, look, you don't have to do this. It's okay if you don't. Just my little fanboy heart. Find a way to incorporate that passage in
monologue.
I want you to remember my hand at your throat. I want you to remember the one man who beat you. Please find a way to get that in there. So I'm sure we're going to be talking about this a lot in the coming weeks. But this
doesn't work because we're both Superman.
I know.
You're both
We're both Superman, so
it's just my alias.
All right, let's move on.
Well, we're going to stick with superheroes, and we're going to stick with comic books because not only did DC have great news, but Marvel also gave us some good news this weekend. Yeah,
Marvel was the second big announcement, and it's just been swallowed by the DC one. But this is significant nonetheless. Like, we all already knew Avengers 2 was coming.
Yeah.
But now they've given us basically what Avengers 2 is going to be. It is the Age of Ultron. A lot of people in our chat boards and in our email have been talking Ultron, wanting to see an Ultron. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't think they'd go in the route of Ultron. I really didn't. I thought they were just going to go Thanos in number 2. But they are going to go Ultron. But here's the really interesting kicker, and Amy Rose and I were talking about this off screen. As most of you know, if you follow the comic books, Ultron ultimately is created by Henry Pym, who is Ant-Man. So, Age of Ultron, when they announced that, everybody just assumed, well then, Henry Pym is going to be in Avengers 2, who's Ant-Man. Henry Pym / Ant-Man is going to be in Avengers 2, and it's going to start with him creating Ultron, and Ultron's going to go crazy, and whatever's going to try to take over the world. For those of you who know the comic book series, now earlier this year, there was a mini-series, essentially, called The Age of Ultron in Marvel, the exact same title. where Ultron comes to take over the world. He's got a bunch of these soldier things called the Ultron Sentinels. And it's a wide Marvel crossover. It's got all the Marvel characters in it. Obviously, Henry Pym is a key character. Wolverine's a key character in that storyline. Hawkeye is a very key character in that one. Iron Man's a very key character. It's a very convoluted story. It involves a lot of time travel and stuff like this. But Joss Whedon has sent the fanboy community in a little bit of a tizzy by announcing, nope, there is no Henry Pym and no Ant-Man in Avengers 2. So that's a huge departure from the comic, because that means Henry Pym's not the one who creates Ultron. They said he's not the one who created him. He did say that Hawkeye's going to play a lot more of a key role in this one, which is kind of interesting to hear. And so this thus has started the speculation online about, well, where does Ultron come? Who creates Ultron? Where does he come from? What's he going to look like? Because he's probably not going to have the Ant-Man head now. What's he going to look like? And there's a great theory going around. I've had this discussion with a few people too, that one way or another, directly or indirectly, that Tony Stark creates Ultron. And that maybe Ultron is an evolution of a discarded Iron Man outfit with a slightly corrupted Jarvis program in him. So then he evolves into this Ultron thing, and maybe the Ultron Sentinels that we see in the comic book is actually another army of Iron Man suits likened unto what we saw in Iron Man 3. I think that's all very feasible, but it is a huge departure. So when you hear Age of Ultron, don't think for a second that then we're going to get the Age of Ultron story that we got in the comic books. Apparently it's a huge departure. It's going to be completely different in many ways. And when you heard that they were doing Age of Ultron, what were some things that stuck out to you, and how significant do you think this is? Okay,
so when I first, because Marvel was keeping everything very, very under wraps at Comic-Con, as they always do. They always have, the last panel and all this, very strategic of them. And hoping and praying that they were going to announce who Ant-Man was going to be, and that it was going to be Nathan Fillion. When I heard about this, I was just like, perfect. This is the perfect segue for, Henry Pym, Ant-Man, to be introduced into this universe and do it like that. But when Joss Whedon came out and said, no, he's not going to be in this, naturally the next evolution would have been that it would be Iron Man, because I believe it was Ultron 18 that he came back in Iron Man's old armor and took on the form of all of that. So it does make sense, but I think that Henry Pym is such a pivotal part to this storyline. I am slightly disappointed that they're not going to go that route. And, Ant-Man is such a cool character. He's such a mastermind in that, and so intelligent with his, advancements in technology and all that. And, I just feel like it would have been a really cool way to introduce the character, because not a lot of people know, sure, the Thors and the Hulks and all of that, but they aren't as familiar with Ant-Man. So I thought it would have been a really good transition. Ultron is the supervillain of the Avengers. I mean, it's great. It's really great. I was really hoping that Benicio del Toro was going to be Thanos. I was hoping that was going to be, instead of the Collector, the mysterious Collector. I do think that they have some more goodies planned for us, but I am slightly disappointed that Henry Pym is not going to be in this. But I do have a lot of faith in Joss Whedon. I do think that he, his love for this universe shines through his writing, through, the way he organizes his ensemble and gets the best out of his actors. And I do really have faith in him and what he's going to do here. It's taking certain liberties, but not, because he did come back as that and took on a bunch of different forms. So, little disappointed, but Age of Ultron is going to be epic. I think we're going to expect a lot more epic battles with the whole team pairing together, and I am really excited that that's where they're going to go with this.
Yeah, one of the interesting things to me about all this is, where does Thanos play into this? Because I think a lot of us just assumed, I included, that when we saw that end credit scene with Thanos and the Avengers, we assumed, okay, there's our big villain for Avengers 2. Yeah. Makes sense. We already know he's going to have a presence in Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah. So we thought, Guardians of the Galaxy is leading into Avengers 2, therefore Thanos. What this tells us is they got bigger plans for Thanos. They got much bigger plans for Thanos. I think Thanos is going to have his fingerprints into much of the Phase 3 stuff. Maybe everything has to do with in Phase 3 is going to have to do with Thanos one way or the other, and that Avengers 3 will culminate in Thanos, which tells me, holy crap, Marvel has really been thinking 5 steps ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Kevin Feige, look, once again, I've said this before, say it again. We all talk about Joss Whedon and his influence in the Marvel Universe. Joss Whedon as much as we all worship him.
Yeah.
He's not the mastermind at Marvel.
Feige.
It's Kevin Feige.
Yeah.
Kevin Feige has been the architect of this whole thing, and clearly him, and obviously he's working with Whedon now, they have thought about this Thanos thing, and they've known where they're going for a long time. And it makes sense. In many ways, Thanos is probably the ultimate villain you can have. Where would you have gone? And I think, now in hindsight, I think, if you had Thanos in Avengers 2, where do you go for Avengers 3? How do you make the threat bigger? I mean, unless you're fighting Galactus, which we know they can't.
Yeah.
How do you make it bigger and yet still somewhat comparable? Easy. You do Ultron in Avengers 2, and you save Thanos for Avengers 3 as a grand puppet master who's pulling a lot of strings. It's a brilliant plan. It's a brilliant plan. Now, all that being said, Marvel still had their ass handed to them by Warner Brothers with one announcement.
But can we talk about for a second how at the Marvel panel they had Tom Hiddleston come out as Loki, came out in character, pointed to the audience, threatened them, chant my name, say my name. Are you kidding me? The whole crowd was shouting, Loki, Loki. I had the chance to speak to him on the Marvel panel. He's the epitome of cool. He really is.
He's so great.
He's so great. He's so charming, and he's such an incredible actor. And I'm really excited to see him continue in this universe. But yeah, I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, we saw some great clips from Marvel, and I'm really excited for what they have. And clearly, they know what they're doing. But I think it's safe to say in this knockout round, DC took it. They took it, and I can't wait. We're going to have some great films coming up, my friends.
And when Loki came out, when Tom Hiddleston came out, dressed as Loki, he said my single favorite line from Avengers, which is, it's awesome, it's poetic, it's beautiful. He says, I am Loki of Asgard, and I am burdened with glorious purpose.
Yes.
I love that line. He comes out, and then he starts yelling at the audience, say my name!
So amazing.
And he says it over and over again. It was so cool. And look, we saw a lot of very cool stuff there. We talked to a lot of very cool people. The Captain America 2 stuff looks great. All this wonderful, wonderful Marvel stuff that we cannot wait for.
Yeah.
But it all got drowned out by Batman versus Superman.
Sure. World's finest, baby.
Now, just before we go here, this girl sitting to my right here.
Which one? You. Me.
She came to Comic-Con with us, and it was her very first Comic-Con. So, Krista Lee, I didn't tell her I was going to ask her this, but Krista Lee, as a first-timer, now, you got to see Comic-Con from a little bit of a different perspective than a lot of people doing it first. You got to come to the press lines and see the stars, but still, you got to go to the parties, you got to see the floor.
Yeah.
You got to dress up as Wonder Woman.
I was.
What was your first Comic-Con experience like? How did you like it?
I want to go back. I'm really happy to be here with you all today and you all, but God, I miss it already so much. It was amazing. From the time that we got there to the time that we left, there was so many amazing things, so many highlights, talking to the different people on the carpet, seeing all the different movies, seeing all the people that, one, watch our show, our viewers, had fun, came up to us and said hello was amazing.
Yeah, that was great.
And then going out, I mean, I still think these two news are huge. I still think my highlight of Comic-Con was seeing the entire X-Men cast of Days of Future Past in full, all sitting together, talking about how great it was working together. That, for me, was my highlight, is seeing just that moment.
Just seeing
it was just beautiful.
Ian McKellen and Patrick Stewart together would be like a religious moment.
It was, and they were so fun, and they were joking and talking about how great it was to be back, and it was just, it was amazing. Like, I can't, first of all, thank AMC enough, because if you guys didn't watch us, I wouldn't have been there. So it's all your fault that I was there, and I thank you, because it was the time of my life. I can't wait for next year.
I had pride watching you just frolic around. I really did, because ever since we started working together, we're definitely rubbing off with you with all our geekiness. And she was just like a kid in a candy store, seriously, just running around, and it was really great to watch. I'm really glad you were there.
It was fun.
And
Dennis
we would
and I hit the floor.
like to say a little shout out for our AMC meet and greet, because all the fans that came by, it was so wonderful getting a chance to meet you in person, and we just really appreciate your support. And it was a great time had by all. So thanks again.
And for all you guys who grabbed us in the hallways and at our panels or in the street at midnight coming out of bars half drunk. I meant you, not me.
Right.
And us. Ew.
Meeting all you guys was so great. We cannot wait for next year. Look, I know we just focused on 2 stories here. We don't have time for mailbag. We've run all out of time. So that'll do it for us. But folks, jump down to the comment section. Share your thoughts on these 2 big pieces of news. Of course, the Avengers, the Age of Ultron, and of course, Superman versus Batman in the upcoming Superman 2. Amazing stories. Leave your thoughts. Tell us what you think about all this kind of stuff. Listen, folks, while I got you, stop what you're doing. Take a second and click the subscribe button. Become a subscriber to our AMC Movie News YouTube channel. Keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of movie news, and of course, our daily AMC Movie Talk show and our weekend AMC Mailbag show. What else should I ask you to do? Oh yeah, follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/AMC Theaters. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/AMC Theaters. You want an audio-only edition of this episode? Look in the description of this video, and you'll find links to our iTunes and our Stitcher Radio. I want to thank, as always, first of all, our host, Miss Chrisley Kennedy. Chrisley, where can people find you online?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Chrisley.
And, of course, the editor of movie news here at AMC Movie News, Miss Amy Rose Eisenbach. Amy Rose, where can people find you?
On Twitter at Amy Rosie. Thanks so much for your support, guys.
And you can find me at John Campy on either Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or wherever you want. That's all the creativity I have. Thanks again for joining us, guys. We will talk more about movie news and probably some other Comic-Con stuff, but these were just two big things that needed our attention next time. So, until next time, my name's John Campia for AMC Movie News. Until tomorrow, bye-bye.